Let's do this. Hey everybody, welcome back to Fantasy Inc. And today we're doing a series review on The Wandering Inn, a web serial that was started back in 2016 by pirateaba and is still continuing today. What brought this series back in mind was they just released Book 9 on the Tears of the Score. As a warning, which I think needs to be the first thing said, it is probably the longest web serial ever created. And what I mean by that is even though it's only been out for about 7 years and still going on, it has over 11 million words. For those of you who may be underestimating that, one of the best and most notable fantasy series out there, The Wheel of Time, which is accredited as being one of the longest as well, with a completed book span of, I believe, 14 different novels, only has 4 million, and it has over 1,000 characters named in it. I don't have an exact number on the amount of characters in this book. It's definitely near it, if not above it, but my goodness, it is a heavy series to get into, so keep that in mind. Before we jump into the summary, I wanted to let y'all know that we're not going to have a deep dive for this video. This is just going to be a general summary of the series itself. My next video is going to be on the Tears of the Score, Book 9, where we're going to get back into the pattern of summary and then the deep dive itself, so be on the lookout for that. To start off our summary, we have our main protagonist, Aaron Solstice, who is dropped off in the middle of a different world with magic. She encounters a dragon at the beginning of the series and runs as quick as she can into an abandoned building. Little does she know this is actually an inn, and she ends up cleaning it up that same night, not having anything else to do. This is where she ends up leveling up as an innkeeper. What y'all should know about this series is it's not only from Aaron's perspective. pirateaba made the very smart decision to take that first-person view into multiple different people, whether that be Ryoka, Nirs Astorgon, Kershaya. Many different characters have the opportunity to get to show the audience what they're thinking and what is specifically going on around them. We are jumping across this world to get these different perspectives, and there's a lot of interplay, and decisions that are made in one city can affect things going on in a different country. With that, it gives a lot more weight to these decisions, mainly happening in the city of the Score, which the Wandering Inn is outside of. This city definitely is a linchpin in the coming conflict, though I have to admit I am halfway through the 9th book, and if you had a gun to my head and asked me what the overarching plot would be for this series, I would have no idea. Whether it's Aaron and the others she meets trying to get back to their own world, whether they build a life here and are just trying to get a semblance of peace, who's to say at the end of the day? For those of you who may not know, this is a LitRPG, though I will say it is very dialed back from other series in this genre where you get a lot of heavy-handed information on stats, buffs, what is happening with their level progression. In this series, they only get notifications of potential level ups right before bed, and it's usually just one sentence, and that is the end of the actual gamified aspect of this book. I love this. Yes, there are some pros to having more information about different stats and different level ups in other series. It can be done very well. In this, it really would take away from the main purpose that pirateaba is shooting for. This book is based on the different characters and their relationships between each other, as well as the triumphs and tribulations they have to face either together or against one another. I wouldn't want to have a stat update on a side character that we might see a few times every other book. It would take away from the actual storytelling, and to be quite candid, this series is dense. Very dense. So it would just add more and more words where you could then easily get taken out of the story. I want to touch on the different factions of this book. Pirateaba does a wonderful job of giving each of them their own motivations, whether they're self-serving or altruistic. With that, you have different species, whether it be drake, human, goblin, antinium, or various other different types of magical species. And then you have the different cities they may be beholden to and have national pride for. You have different guilds, whether it be the Runners Guild, the Adventuring Guild, the School of Westrum. And with that, Pirateaba is not only building out these characters, but they're giving more weight to the power that these factions have. Once you go down the rabbit hole and really see how interconnected each of these different factions are, you are completely amazed that one person can think this deeply about the work that they're doing, and it goes to show why this series is so long. One pro that I see that actually some people might disagree with is that this series is not exactly plot driven, but it is a slice of life genre, which actually had been noted in a 2018 interview with Pirateaba. What I mean by that is we're getting a day-to-day feel. Yes, it's 9 books in, but I'm pretty sure it's been less than a year that Erin Solstice has been on this world. She's accomplished a lot, don't get me wrong, but to describe less than a year with the amount of words, 11 million, is a true feat that an author can figure out how to do. And the only way I could really consider doing that without having every single moment written down is by taking alternative views from different characters. One con that should be mentioned of this book is you're not going to appreciate fully every single different viewpoint or arc in the series. For me, it was the Floss arc, who is a king from a different country than the one that Erin is currently in. It just didn't speak to me. I know reading Reddit, a lot of people enjoy Floss as a character, as well as seeing the intricacies of his struggles trying to rebuild his kingdom. For other people, I've seen them complain about there being too much time spent on the goblins and their perspectives. Personally, that's one of my favorite, and that's the interesting part about this series, is people are going to really relate and connect with different facets of this story. To be quite candid, you can skip some of it. I definitely skipped a decent amount of the Floss arc. Please don't burn me at the stake, I know, but it's 11 million words. You can only really miss so much if you're skipping a few chapters here or a few chapters here. So if you run into a specific scene or a few chapters that really draw you out of the book, feel free to just jump ahead a little bit. With this series, it's definitely like eating an elephant. You can only get through it one bite at a time. If you don't like a certain part, just pick up and try another bite. One other pro for this book is you really do fall in love with specific characters. Checking out the Reddit threads, I've seen top 5, top 10 lists of characters, and they're almost always different. Some people might really relate and vibe with Pisces, who is a very arrogant young mage. Other people are just heartbroken and just want the best for characters like Bird. You can really vibe and find someone in this series who you are going to relate with, or at the very least support eternally. With that though, it is difficult for there to be a lot of character progression. There's a lot of good reasons for this. Yes, we're jumping all over the place to different perspectives of these characters, and yes, it's only been less than a year time, so the fact that they are not changing as much as the audience would think, it hasn't been very long from their perspectives. You could argue that a lot happens in these few months for some characters, and yeah, there should be a little more growth there. But at the same time, to do good character progression for what has to be over 500 different characters is an impossible feat that I would never want to take on. So my hat is tipped to pirateaba, and I know that they're going to definitely pull it through, and we're going to get a lot of progression where we need it. For those of you interested in learning more about this series, feel free to check out the description where I have some links. I have pirateaba's website, and on there you can find all of their socials. I have the interview I mentioned earlier in this video with pirateaba back in 2018. And for those of y'all interested in seeing a spoiler-free summary about book 1, feel free to check out Matt's fantasy book recommendations. I have that video in the description below. He does a wonderful job giving the good basics on this series in general, but specifically getting you interested in book 1. Like I said earlier, the next video is going to be on Tears of Lascore, book 9. I'm halfway through it and just loving it so far. Really big focus on the goblins in this one, and I cannot tell you how much it is really vibing with me. So I'm very excited to make that video. If y'all haven't read the series, definitely don't watch that one. But for those of you who have, feel free to join me, and we're gonna be talking about the latest published book. Thank y'all again for joining me at Fantasy Inc. My name is Wyeth, and be sure to keep reading.